Hello everyone, Parsley7 here, back with some more Bloons T Battles 2, rocking with some BFB Coliseum footage. I figured it'd be quite interesting to show. Running again some more Dartling Ice Farm, as I had a lot of practice with this strategy, and it is kind of fun to kind of run. Moab defense is actually kind of weird and just kind of janky, but I think that was kind of a similar thing with kind of Battles 1 when people were running Dartling. It's just kind of the same thing. Just kind of spamming 0-0 Darlings down on the map in order to deal enough damage to actually be able to beat mobs. Kind of makes me wonder why it actually kind of took so long for people to kind of realize that, just spamming 0-0 Darlings was definitely a lot more efficient than just kind of going for like a sticky bomb, like, when DFN was meta and, all that stuff, but hey, I'll take it. Now Josh here decides to go for a double boomer start, so that pretty much means he's going for like, boomer sub ice or boomer sub glue, as those two strategies are really the only boomerang strategies you actually see where like boomerang is actually utilized. Unfortunately, boomer's kind of in a spot where it's kind of overpowered and underpowered at the same time. It works well and works wonders, it's like, boomer sub ice and those strategies, but it doesn't really do too well kind of outside that. Moab defense is expensive with boomerang, it's also very inconsistent, and boomerang late game is garbage. They still haven't buffed any of the tier 5 boomerangs, which is kind of a surprise to me. But he gets his ricochet up pretty early on round 3, he gets his Oben in a very weird spot. Putting Oben there kind of means that you can use the brambles for anti-mob defense, but trees is kind of a bit far ahead in the track to where it won't really swallow up cerams if I do send a huge rush. So I guess kind of depends. If you kind of expect to go late-ish with the strategy, with that strategy, I guess you'd put Oben there, but if not, then I guess you'd put Oben up ahead just for some anti-Moab brambles, so that way you don't have to spend as much and hopefully not die even with a Moab press down the field. So skipping kind of forward, just kind of the similar, Dartling Ice early game, Dartling Ice Farm early game, just kind of going for like 0-2-2s and then eventually in Icicles. I'm getting down a few Dartlings just kind of beforehand, as round 17 is a bit of a, I wouldn't say scary round, but a bit of a problematic round when it comes to Dartling Ice Farm. Now he's not going for Boomer Sub Ice or he's going for Boomer Sub Glue, he's going for Boomer Sub Spac, which is a very interesting strategy. Round 26 is definitely going to be a huge micro-check moment. Although I will say, Boomer Sub Spac does do a lot better against Moabs, in my opinion, than Boomer Sub Ice or Boomer Sub Glue. As again, Spike Balls does wonders, for the early game, and it's pretty much unrushable until like, BFBs and ZOMGs. And even then, just get Spiked Mines and you're pretty much set. So it's a very interesting strategy, but round 26 is definitely going to be an issue. Same with kind of round 30 as well, as that round is also going to be a huge micro-check moment. Well, I guess you do have first strike. He sends me 2 F mobs with a mob kind of underneath. I ended up boosting just to kind of make sure. If I had another Dartling down, I don't think I would have needed to boost. But again, I don't necessarily need all my boosts kind of in the late game, as it's on Glade, so this isn't really getting past 28. Round 20 rolls along, just continue on with my normal farming path. He sends me BFB, so I just get like, just kind of ice shards and eventually into an embrittlement. But he's sending a lot more, so he's sending an all-out kind of this round, so I just kind of end up dropping a bunch of 0-0 Darlings, getting a Rocket Storm, and just selling 2 farms in order to be able to afford this defense. It's going to be pretty poor after this. So I end up boosting, Rocket Storming, he sends Regen Rainbows underneath, but even then, all of that still is not enough to take down this strategy. Now it was very easy and trivial to defend. I don't actually think I even need BADS. In retaliation, I decided to kind of all out against him, sending a ZOMG with BFBs underneath. Definitely do think that rush he sent would have been a lot more deadly if you waited till round 24, so that way he could send down fast cooldowns, fortified ZOMGs with, BFBs and all that underneath. His strategy, again, I guess he kind of didn't want to go 26, which is understandable, as 26 is going to be a problematic round for him. So he just ends up getting just stalling with eventual just kind of presses. Now I will say, stalling with presses, the strategy is actually pretty smart, as Spalls is able to tank all the cerams and insides, because, press is just absolutely just stalling all the Moabs, so Spalls really only has to worry about the insides, which I guess is pretty smart. I'm not really sure if that was intended on his side, but I'm going to assume yes. I was a bit worried that he was going to be able to defend these UMGs, so I was kind of looking at BADS, seeing like, how much will it send across for fortified. As again, I sold all my farms and I don't really have much more money to really spare. Although BFBs are getting pretty far, though he gets a turbocharge in the back. The first time I've seen those, he gets an 042. I feel like he should have went top hat as he needs Pierce at this point, not damage, which he almost dies to that. So after I saw that, I was just like, you know what, selling bads, and I'm just gonna send some mobs and whatnot kind of underneath. You know, a bit of desync on his side, as again he was easily able to defend all this. It was kind of my last ditch all-out effort on my side. If he did send a rush, you know, I was gonna be able to defend with Rocket Storm. Although he does eventually end up dying to the Moabs, which is kind of a bit surprising. I guess, you know, his Spike Ball's pile just wasn't beefy enough in order to tank all the SRAMs, but GG Josh. It's a very interesting strategy, but round 26, like I said before, it's definitely going to be a bit of a problematic round. Alright, now we're back on Sands of Time. We're still running the Darling Farm Ice. I haven't really had much practice with this strategy kind of on this map. He goes Dartling again, which he does put his Dartling in the HRP spot. If you put Dartling where Dark Guava puts that, that kind of signals that, you know, you aren't really running Darling Farm Ice, because that's where you're going to want to put your HRP. So usually you want to put your Darling there if you're running like, you know, DFN or any other strategy to where, you know, your 13 defense has to rely on HRP / Rocket Storm. You can put your Dartling where I put it if you're running like Darling Farm Ice, or if your 13 defense, you know, doesn't depend on HRP. So that is kind of a bit of a tech tip if you if that interests you. You know, if you putting your Dartling in places does really sort of matter. I guess he's also is trying to stall the round, it kind of seems like, from my opinion. But, you know, of course, my Bloons are kind of doing whatever. He's rocking DJ Benjamin, which has been interesting. I haven't really seen DJ Benjamin kind of too much. I sent him like, you know, 2 sets of yellows just to hopefully kind of force something on his side, see if that gets some lives off him, or if you just go straight for the powerful darts. I agreed a little bit and go for my 0-0 farm down, even though I should be going for my powerful darts right now. But it doesn't seem like he was too aggressive, and he did have to spend a lot of money getting DJ Benjamin. Also, a bit of another tech tip is on round 7, just start boosting yellows at Dartling players. Normally, you know, Dartling actually does not have enough Pierce in order to actually fully defend yellows, although I think on Sands of Time he is a bit fine. He does get a second 0-0 Dartling down, so he is a bit fine against that, but I did force him to actually upgrade quite a bit. He sends yellows on my side. Thankfully with Darling Ice Farm, round 7 yellows is actually a lot easier. The only thing I had to do is just kind of get a little low tier ice tower down, and you know, that defends perfectly fine. Although on shorter maps, like, you know, Glade or something, you're definitely probably going to need a lot more than just, you know, a little ice tower down. The perk is that you can sell it when the round 7 rush is over. So round 17 started. I didn't want to let him just kind of max out eco, so just sending kind of a bit of a rush, nothing really too, I guess, strong. He does get his Darling Fanclub down kind of preemptively. Send a kind of a small not region rainbow, just kind of rainbow leads underneath, as well as like ceramics with, you know, just kind of mobs underneath. He only gets 2 Dartlings down as well as his icicles, although I guess the cerams did kind of help him defend this. He ends up getting another one, and he's just kind of, you know, spamming Dartlings all around the map. And he also ends up kind of boosting, so there's definitely a value rush on kind of my part, even though it was a bit expensive. Now, because I forced him to boost on round 17, he starts selling his 0-0 Darlings down. It was kind of perfect on round 18. I've gained access to fortified Moabs at this point. He ends up getting a Spalls down in retaliation, but he's not going to have enough time to really build up a healthy spike pile. He ends up using the DJ Benjamin ability, which probably won't really help Spike Factory too much, but if you look, the pile is looking very, very small. He does have the Trojan on the first Moab, but he gets the Trojan pretty late on the second one, and he I guess was able to defend and pop that, which I guess was pretty nice. I send even more mobs underneath, but I probably should have chilled out there, as again, you know, Spalls at this point did have enough time in order to fully build up a pretty healthy spike pile, so those second set of mobs that I sent wasn't really too much of a value rush by me. Though he does have to get a Rocket Storm to defend. Well, I guess the Rocket Storm was a bit of an over defend, although I did force him to sell spike balls, so even though I didn't really was able to kill him, I did, you know, cause him to just panic just a wee bit. I kind of foresaw that he was going to send a rush at me once, you know, he, once he actually was stopped sending eco and saw that the BFB was coming from a mile away. So preemptively placing down some Darlings. The community has kind of dubbed this, you know, the Dartling Fan Club. And this fortified BFB is pretty easy, just kind of embrittlement with, you know, just kind of buckshot. Sends a normal BFB kind of underneath. I start getting more Darlings down, but I don't necessarily think I actually kind of need this many. Kind of a bit of an over defend on my part, but again, still kind of practicing and just kind of learning just a wee bit, you know, with Darling Farm Ice. Kind of seeing what defends, what doesn't defend. Decided to send him a ZOMG in retaliation. I sold a farm and it was just leaking just a tiny bit. So I guess it was a bit worrying on my part. Kind of looking on his side, he's getting his Darling fan club over on his side as well. So I kind of wish him luck with defending this rush, as I kind of sold pretty much every farm. Actually, I didn't pretty much sell every farm. I sold every farm. Stopped equaling. He boosts kind of immediately, which I don't think was the kind of play here. I probably would have waited till the ZOMGs and FZOMGs kind of popped into kind of Moabs. I would have used, you know, beat down. I'm not sure if Benjamin actually gets beat down at this point due to the kind of leveling changes. Now, he does end up popping all the BFBs down into Moabs. He uses beatdown on Benjamin, which nullifies the rush kind of a little bit, although he still has 3 ZOMGs on his side. He gets on a Spike Storm, but he doesn't use it immediately, which kind of signals that he's not really trying to kind of micro check this, which is a bit of a kind of a strange decision on his side. He uses Party Monkey yet again, I guess in conjunction with the Spike Storm, but I don't think Benjamin and Spike Storm does really help out too much. Now, even though he doesn't die here, the Spike Ball Pile is incredibly small at this point, so he's not going to have enough damage in order to actually beat down the kind of BFBs. He sends good game on his side, well, was a pretty good game. Both players were, I guess, reasonably aggressive. Alrighty, so back in ZOMG, running some Ace Farm Spac, taking a bit of a break from Darling Farm Ice, also just because I kind of prefer this strategy when it does come to farm strategies. Ace Farm Spac is a bit of a kind of a meme strat when you just kind of look at it on the surface, although it actually works incredibly well. Basically how it works is that Bomb Race defends all the way up to kind of round 10, does need some help with kind of round 11, which is what Spac3 is for. Also, Striker Jones is there to have the Bomb Race the ability to pop black balloons. Kind of looking at this strategy, you know, the first thing you do think of is kind of ZOMGs. Well, ZOMG defense actually isn't really all that bad, because the only thing you have to do is you need to pop the ZOMG, so that way you can just ground zero the insides. Round 26 is definitely still a micro check moment, although it is a lot easier than, because you do have ground zero, which is a full map, you know, full map nuke, versus, you know, Spike Storm can be sometimes. Spike Storm can just sometimes, you know, decide, I don't really want to pop DTs today. But it is a bit of a fun strategy just to kind of use. And even in defending the early game, you know, I'm able to kind of greed with a farm on round 3, as I'm easily able to defend blues. It is kind of nice, you know, seeing, you know, Ace actually be usable here. Although I think Darling Edgy Farms still is the meta on this map. I'm still learning how to properly play this strategy, but it is a pretty beginner friendly strategy. It's not necessarily too difficult to play. The only thing you really have to know is just know how to farm and then just upgrade Ace. That's really all you have to do in order to actually play this. Now on opponent's side, he's going for Darling and normal Benjamin. I'm assuming normal Benjamin is there for his little siphon ability, although after the hero leveling nerf, I'm not really sure when Benjamin actually does get his level 10 ability, as I don't think the heroes get it in time now for kind of ZOMGs. Although, fortunately, they did kind of restore, for the weaker heroes, they did restore kind of the leveling changes. If you didn't see, Quincy, Churchill, and all of them, they level up back to their normal pace before the hero change. I was going for an eco strategy, which is actually a bit interesting to see with kind of Darling. The only really eco Darling strategies I know is like Darling Ice Village, Darling Engineer Village. It's basically the modification of farm strategies, except you replace farm with village, just because village is an amazing late game tower. Just kind of homeland defense on its own is absolutely kind of amazing. But you see here, you know, Bomb Race is easily able to defend, you know, round 5, and even, you know, round 6 Black Balloons isn't really too bad, just because, you know, Striker now is able to have the Bomb Race be able to pop Black Balloons. He sends kind of Black Balloons at me, but I just kind of get rapid fire, you know, just kind of just in case thing. But even still, I don't necessarily think I needed it, although I did end up kind of leaking a green balloon, but that's whatever. Also, a bit of a tech tip, where Murray ends up placing his HRP is kind of where you want to put your HRP down kind of on this map. You might be wondering why not just actually go for the Darling spot on the top side, where the original Darling was. Well, I mean, you can, but the thing is, if the rush gets pretty far, the HRP ends up chasing and targeting the tail end of the rush, which isn't really what you want. You want to target the top side of the rush, because that's where you're kind of doing the most damage. Also, it is the spot you would place your Darling, if you are trying to end up stalling the round. So kind of with the strategy, I don't really have to worry kind of much. Round 13, again, isn't really too bad, seeing as I have Spike Drift down with a pretty healthy spike pile. If you just kind of get like 2 bomb races and like a 102 Spectre, you can pretty much defend most rushes. So it's round 18, he got his supply drop now, so it's kind of Darling Sniper. Wonder what his last tower is. He just sends me some kind of F mobs my way. I get ODS kind of immediately just because this is an absolutely large rush. I end up getting spiked balls, although it is kind of a bit kind of late. So I was a bit worried that I wasn't going to be able to pop this, so I just kind of end up getting a Spike Storm down just to kind of help out. I don't necessarily think I need a Spike Storm, but that was just to kind of be safe. I still do think I'm doing kind of reasonably well with farming. It's round 19, got 2 plantations and a central market down. I'm going Darling Sniper on his side, which is a very interesting strategy. I haven't seen Darling Ninja Sniper since, was it like 1.05 days when like Darling Laser Shock was incredibly bugged. Send him a BFB and an FBFB in retaliation just to kind of force him to just get upgrades and slow down his sniper farming as much as possible. He ends up using kind of Benjamin's kind of ability immediately. Now I end up kind of sending purples his way just because I do like to call Benjamin's kind of level 3 ability the lose button, as if you use that ability on a lot of shorter maps, the purples will be so fast that by the time the towers come up from their kind of, I guess you call it cooldown, purples would have already left. Unfortunately, this map is so long that, the purples end up kind of not doing anything. But it does work on maps kind of like Castle Ruins, Glade and Inflection. If you do boost, purples at the opponent when their Benjamin abilities kind of like off, they will end up dying because they won't come up in time, unless they pretty decent micro. He ends up getting a kind of sticky bomb in the back. He did have a he did try to go for a 302. I guess that just kind of wasn't enough for him. Gets his elite sniper during kind of that rush, which is kind of a bit late. I think around 24 for an elite sniper. Well, it's not bad. It's not really too great either. Although I guess seeing he's playing, Darling Ninja Sniper, which again is a late game strategy if you ask me. Again, just kind of wanted to slow down his farming just kind of a little bit. He ends up using kind of Siphon, so I just kind of chill out with, sending rushes. So I guess that is kind of a good thing with kind of running Benjamin. But all those supply drops really are putting in work when it comes to popping down those kind of Moab layers, which is a bit of a surprise. But he does have a fortified ZMG that he hasn't really touched too much, so he ends up popping the BFB, but not really too much. Round 26 is upon us. I kind of sent him a DDT. I definitely should have waited because after the Sabo changes, I should say, you should definitely end up waiting. Gets a May Moab as well as a sticky bomb, so he is fine when it comes to DDTs, but he does have to worry about this massive FCMG DDT rush I am gonna send his way. Again, round 30 is a bit of a scary round when it comes to this strategy, as it is a huge micro check moment when it comes to just kind of carpet of spikes microing. Supermines is affordable, but even then you have to sell for that, and you do need time to build up spikes. But anyways, huge rush on his side. He ends up getting Master Bomber and selling almost every supply drop in carpet of spikes. Though he does is almost dying to those kind of F-Ceram insides. He ends up boosting and ends up kind of dying to F-Cerams. But that's it. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe, or join Discord. Link is down below in the description.